It's the air coming out of those pipes that is making me have this emotional feeling, this connection to that sound, as opposed to just some simulated sound. We created an algorithm, moves air through an actual speaker system, a box, and an exhaust outlet that comes out the back of the car. Air coming out the back of the car was important. And by the way, the things that we've done to try to bring the fun back in, they're not great ideas.
The Dodge Charger Daytona SRT Banshee concept car. Some people love it, a lot of people hate it, and Dodge didn't reveal much about their new EV during Speed Week. But what if I told you Tim Kuniskis just sat down for an hour-long interview discussing the new Charger Daytona EV? So in this video, let's break down if the Charger Daytona is really a concept car, a surprise direct connection SEMA reveal, Dodge's microtransactions, and a Fratzonic exhaust system inspired by a pipe organ. There is a lot of stuff to break down from this interview, really enough to make several videos, which I'll do at some point. This video will be all about the new information we learned about the Charger Daytona SRT Banshee. I'll put on the screen some timestamps for all the new information we get about the Charger Daytona straight from Tim Kuniskis' mouth. But let's start with this part of the interview about Dodge want to be transparent with the Banshee to give us some time to soak in.
One of the things that we decided was very early on, we said we need to show this car to the public, more importantly to the enthusiasts. This is a massive change and they're going to need some soak time and they're going to need some real detailed information on exactly how we're going to go to market with this car, because there was no way we could wake up in 24 and launch this on our fans and say, hey, we're changing after 50 years of everything we told you was the greatest thing. Oh, this is better. Trust us. You can't do that.
First, Dodge didn't tell us really any detailed information on the Banshee EV. They wouldn't even call it a pre-production car, only a concept, and didn't tell us how they would bring it to market. Tim basically admits right here, this car is not a concept. This car is more closely a pre-production vehicle that will come out in 2024. Later in the interview, he also confirms the production version of this car will use bench seats in the rear and not bucket seats.
And then fold the seats flat. The concept car had 4 buckets. The production car won't. The production car will have a 60-40 split. So when you fold that down, you're literally going to have this massive flat floor in the back of that car with a lift gate. You're literally going to get UV capability in that thing.
I encourage you guys to watch the whole interview, but it sounded like Dodge was scared that everyone would hate the Banshee, so they went to CYA mode and called it a concept car. So if there's something the majority of people hate, they can hide behind the concept car title and still have a year to change something. Now, after a few weeks in this interview, all of a sudden the concept car is coming in 2024. It'll have 60-40 bench seats and the exhaust system is still being tweaked. In this poll I asked, over 75% of you guys hate the exhaust. And surprise, surprise, according to Dodge, it's still getting tweaked. A lot of people like the design. 60% of you guys say you would consider it if it had 1200 horsepower and could spank a Tesla Model S Plaid. Even though 86% of people don't consider the Charger Daytona to be a true muscle car. Those are pretty strong numbers from thousands of potential customers that like the car, even though it's not a muscle car and it doesn't have a Hemi, and the biggest flaw so far is the exhaust system. Let's look at the reasoning behind it.
On this exhaust system, we don't want to have a couple speakers in the car piping in some fake sound. And by the way, the sound's not done. I mean, we're still working on the sound. We've got plenty of time to keep tuning it and tweaking it. We didn't want to have that sound. We wanted to have something new, fresh, modern, something very much in the electrical space, which is quite frankly why we call it the Banshee, because it's got that screaming wail of a Banshee. So when you listen to the car, when you hear the high-pitched scream, it's very polarizing on purpose. There's a bass track in that idle, and that bass track is literally the firing order of a Hemi V8. There'll be something there almost subliminal that says, I'm okay with this. Think of the first time you ever went into a cathedral and heard a pipe organ. Your brain saw the organ, it saw the pipes, and it heard the sound, and whether you knew it or not, your brain made the connection. That's what it is. It's the air coming out of those pipes that is making me have this emotional feeling, this connection to that sound, as opposed to just some simulated sound, which is exactly what we did on this car. We created an algorithm that takes all the inputs of an ICE engine today, moves air through an actual speaker system, a box with chambers, plenums, pipes, and an exhaust outlet that comes out the back of the car. Air coming out the back of the car was important.
Tim Kuniskis is specifically leaving out exactly what is pushing air through the chambers to make the noises. I contend there is a speaker in the chamber that is pushing air at certain frequencies. There has to be some kind of speaker or electric motor generating the air volume required to make this car as loud as a Hellcat. We know exactly how loud this system would be.
126 decibels of output. How loud is that? That's Hellcat loud. That's Tower Flyby Spill Your Coffee loud.
We know Dodge worked with sound engineers from blockbuster movies.
Came up with the idea of having that underlying bass line that you're talking about, following the firing order of the Hemi. I think that's brilliant. How'd you guys come up with that?
It's a group of really smart people that, beyond being smart, are huge enthusiasts. So one of the things that we wanted to do is we looked at what was going on in the industry with sounds, and we worked with some of the people that work on big blockbuster movies for sounds. And the easy go-to button with everybody that we talked to was to simulate a V8. And we said that's absolutely 180 degrees different than what we want to do. That would be the worst thing we could ever do. We don't want to do that, but we want to have a connection to it. And the connection to it just became that bass track.
Tim said it himself with the pipe organ analogy. You hear the sound, you see the pipes, and your brain makes the connection. Sound like to me there is some kind of electric motor or speaker in the exhaust chamber. You hear the sound, you see the exhaust pipes behind the Banshee, and Dodge hopes in person your brain can make the connection. He even pointed out that point as well.
That's why when people hear the sound of the car on their computer, they're just hearing it out of a little speaker coming at them. They have not experienced it yet. When you hear it in person, it's totally different. So when we revealed the car, we drove it out into the crowd, and people said, "That's crazy. That's a hand-built prototype car. What are you doing?" I said, "I need to prove to everybody that I'm not showing you a live stream of some audio that we pumped through the speakers in this building. No, it's driving through the crowd out in the parking lot, and the people are looking at it going, where's the sound coming from?" And if you watch the video, people actually put their hand down by the exhaust outlet to feel air coming out. They're like, how's that happening?
And as I pointed out in another video, I don't see a single person putting their hand near this exhaust. Look at this decibel sound chart. Do you see anyone in the crowd responding to sounds in the 126 decibel range? Do you see anyone acting like they're in a sporting event, like they're hearing a jackhammer running, shocked by a sudden pop of a balloon or a thunderclap?
How much money, R&D money, did you put into that sound system? You know,
No,
for the
I'll never too much.
Just saying. At SEMA, we will see another version of the Banshee that will be modified by some of the options that you can get from Direct Connection.
How much customization are you going to allow on this?
Stay tuned for SEMA this year. We're going to show a different version of this car at SEMA because we know that is absolutely critical to our buyer. 50% of them modify their cars today. So at SEMA, we're going to show you a different flavor of this, different look, feel.
Since now everyone likes the design, now we get a sneaky SEMA reveal instead of any announcement during Speed Week. Remember, Dodge pointed out the 7th edition was going to SEMA 3 days during Speed Week. Not one single time did we get any mention of Direct Connection or the Banshee was going to make an appearance. You would think since we need soak time and detailed information, we would have heard this announcement when everyone was watching online and when journalists were all present. And now that some YouTube podcasts, probably a lot of people didn't even know what was going on. This thinks of Dodge being scared that the EV would fail during Speed Week and now pretend that this is the plan all along to go to SEMA with this car. Speaking of Direct Connection, we hear some more info about Direct Connection and the Charger Daytona EV.
And we're also going to talk about how and why we launched direct connection well in advance on ICE so that we could transition to electrification with direct connection, because people are going to want to modify their cars regardless of what's pushing them. But we will have different sound profiles because we're going to have 9 different power levels on this car, 3 directly from us, and then another 2 on each of those, so a total of 9, and the extra 6 will be from direct connection. Each one of those will have a slightly different sound profile.
We learned there will be 3 levels to the Banshee, and it's going to be very important to get the right trim. Dodge is going to offer, for example, an RT, a Scat Pack, and let's say a Hellcat performance level trim. Each trim's hardware will be spec'd for that top direct connection kit that Dodge will offer for you, and you'll be software limited in horsepower until you pay for that power later in an over-the-air update.
You still have to have hardware, right? You still have to have suspension, you still have to have brakes, you still have the tires. And that's why we said, hey, we're going to launch 3 different trim levels, but 2 power levels up on each of those trim levels is going to be available through direct connection. The reason that we did that and didn't say, hey, it's 1 power level and you can buy 8 more is because you need the hardware. So you buy the first car, and we're going to give you the hardware that we're not going to let you outrun your suspension, your wheels, your tires, your brakes, and still step up. And then the next one, you're not going to be able to outrun your wheels, tires, brakes, and then the next one, and the next one. So we're going to bake that capability in. If you buy the car and you never upgrade it, did you overpay a little bit? Yeah, maybe a little bit. You got a little more brake, a little more suspension, a little more tire than maybe needed, but.
And then features like drift, burnout, donut, and slam mode are already pre-configured in the car, but you have to pay a subscription or an unlock fee for those modes. Listen to this track day unlock service that Tim explains.
I can offer a track day feature. I can offer a feature that says, hey, you want to buy it for the weekend. And then if you like it for the weekend while you're at the track, you can then pay more and keep it, things like that.
Let's say the Charger Daytona is software limited to around 600 horsepower for the base trim that you buy at a dealership. Then you pay for over-the-air updates to get that missing 400 horsepower. So probably the first direct connection kit will take a car to around 800 horsepower, and then that final over-the-air update will unlock the full 1000 horsepower. This is exactly what Stellantis told us during software day.
We'll give our customers the ability to upgrade their vehicles in real time. Here are a few examples. Dodge is developing performance upgrades, launching actually next week, including driver-tunable software that will deliver an immediate horsepower boost while retaining the car's emissions compliance. For our Ram pickup owners, customers can increase the capability of their truck to handle greater loads. Now let's talk about long road trips. The ability to customize your in-cabin experience with entertainment options like premium stereo, Wi-Fi, streaming music, or Fire TV built-in can be added easily on the fly.
You see, they're going to play with the trucks and make you pay extra for probably the #1 reason that you bought that truck in the first place. They're going to toy around with the load and tone capabilities with microtransactions over the air. We also learned that every Charger Daytona version will be all-wheel drive according to Tim Kuniskis.
With a liftgate, you're literally going to get UV capability in that thing, and then every one of them is going to be all-wheel drive. So I did somewhat overcome the utility, and I did overcome the all-weather capability, because now I'm going to give you better performance than a Hellcat and be able to drive it in the Midwest all year long. So, okay, I'm liking the odds there.
In order to take advantage of Direct Connection's top EV trim options, every car would need to have the third motor in the front axle already pre-installed. So now the question is, do you have to do a microtransaction for donut mode to unlock rear-wheel drive, or will the front motor be software disabled until you pay a fee to enable all-wheel drive? I don't like this whole load my car down with extra hardware, make me pay a premium for the car, and then telling me I have to pay more for features that my car already has installed on it. Imagine being sold a 7 horsepower TRX that was software limited to a Scat Pack, and then the shop travel was limited to a Tradesman. That's how ridiculous this sounds in my head, but let me know what you guys think about this. This is the second worst option you guys voted for after the Fratzonic fake exhaust system. And yes, I know I should have put no Hemi on the list, but I want to see what specific features on this Dodge EV that people don't like. If you guys have been watching my other EV videos on the Charger Daytona, I've said months ago that the Maserati Granturismo Folgore is basically the same vehicles as Dodge's EV. It's very interesting, after this interview, the Granturismo is now announced to have 3 power levels. The only difference with Maserati is they're going to use their lower 2 trims with ICE engines. One engine is going to have 490 horsepower, the other one's going to have 550 horsepower. And then the last variant, the EV, looks to be software limited to 750 horsepower now, even though it was reported to have 1200 horsepower EV motors back in March. And the Granturismo, just like the Charger Daytona, will be all-wheel drive only. I thought we would see a single, dual, and tri-motor setup with 3 different power levels. So it seems that all these cars will be built with little hardware variation, but they'll mainly be software locked to prevent you from accessing some features. This will allow Stellantis to further cut down production costs, but I don't see those savings being passed along to customers. Dodge could have shown a budget Charger Daytona, or at least given us a price range for one of these EVs. I have a hard time seeing after this interview the starting price of the base Charger Daytona beating the Tesla Model 3 performance. Add the autopilot option and now bring the price up to around $63,000. Self-driving is confirmed to be coming, but I wonder why Dodge has not talked about it yet. With their strategy of loading cars with hardware and you had to pay for the highest priced EV trim, I don't see these cars being that cheap. My gut feeling is I think the 800 volt Banshee system is going to cost somewhere around $90,000, and then with direct connection microtransactions, I think the price is going to creep up near the Model S Plaid's $130K range. The Granturismo Folgore is going on sale in 2023, so when pricing for that particular EV is announced, we should have a pretty good idea what to expect for an 800 volt Charger Daytona. But make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and like the video, it really does help it grow on YouTube. Grab some merch on your way out, and until the next time, I'm out.